Okay.
You made it to Friday. We all made it to Friday. How's it going? I am Chris Gore from Film Threat, and this is our special Thor Love and Thunder spoiler-filled discussion. And we're going to see how that goes today. Also, there's a chance we might get to a couple indie film reviews. But we are definitely interviewing the filmmakers behind a new indie movie that I think comes out today, The Prey Legend of Karnoctus, a film with Danny Trejo. It's kind of a take on Predator from an indie perspective. We'll be talking to those filmmakers. We may not get to the indie film reviews this week because there's so much to talk about with Thor. I've now seen it twice, and I've noticed a few more things, a lot more things. I'm happy you're with us today on a Friday morning. Can't wait to chat with you. I'm going to assume you've seen the movie. We're going to be non-spoiler for the beginning, and we're going to get into spoilers pretty quickly. So let's get things started right now, very quickly. We're going to get it started. It's happening at this very minute. Welcome. It's your Film Threat Friday. I am joined today by my colleague, editor-in-chief of filmthreat.com, Alan Ng. Alan, how's it going today?
Good morning. Yes, I'm cashing in those Disney checks. We're gonna have a great Thor discussion today.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Now this is weird because we did this out of the theater reaction, and I do think that context and how you see a movie matters, right? You see it with your friends. Mm-hmm. You see it if you see a movie after a bad breakup. I don't care what the movie is. It's not going to cheer you up. But I keep noticing things about this movie. Oh, we should get right into, first of all, a couple of things before we launch right in with our review here. And this is going to be our spoiler discussion of the film. Let's say hi to everybody here. Fletcher Williams, Thor, Love, Rinse, and Repeat content. I couldn't agree with you more, Fletcher. David Garcia, saw it last night. Way too many jokes, but it was entertaining. There's certainly parts that are entertaining, but I agree with you on the too many jokes side. We're going to get to that. I figured it out why the jokes bother me.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear this.
No. I'm going to tell you why the jokes really bothered me, especially upon second viewing, because certain things just don't play twice. Right? They just don't play twice. Hank VP, Alan will be late cashing those Disney checks.
No, I cash them once they come in. I'm never late.
Not just late. If you missed the top of the show, Alan, he keeps upping his game. Alan keeps upping his game, and I know that you love those Alan videos. We have something new, we got some fresh Alan for you.
That's a long one. Oh my god.
When was that shot in Vegas?
Oh, not too long. Back when I was down to 8 cups, but now
right. Okay. Let's see. Aaron Rosenfeld, Thor 4 needs more gore. Completely agree. I think a lot of things could use more gore. Not necessarily the bloody kind, but more gore. I predict we'll be hearing needs more masculine energy at some point, says Aaron Rosenfeld. Yeah, it does.
I think there was masculine energy.
I think there was masculine energy there, but there's to me this gold standard for me for masculine energy is RRR, and then everything else is less than that. So not enough for me. Thank you, Aaron, for calling me out. Sarcasticus, this intro is better than the Thor 4 trailers. And Fletcher Williams, the question we don't need answered on this movie is it woke? We already know. Yeah, you don't need that answered. Flaccid Phoenix, is it me or is Alan getting hotter? Wow. Flaccid Phoenix, you are 100% correct. Shout out to Flaccid Phoenix. Subscribe to his channel. He is in the chat, modding, producing, doing Thor's work today. CD Stein 69 just watched Krull again this morning. Perfect 80s sci-fi. CD Stein 69, I agree. Krull is unappreciated classic. There are a lot of classics from that era. Even when you go back and watch like The Black Hole, which we should do some I'll say this, the next 3 months, the third quarter, they're already talking about it. There's nothing. There aren't any big tentpole movies. There are 2 more. There's Nope and there's Bullet Train. That's it. It's going to be a slog between now and September. Yeah. Trust me. But Film Threat, we're going to point out the indie films worth paying attention to. So there you go. Fletcher Williams.
There will be a lot of indie films coming out in theaters because they need content. And
I don't think we've got like a bunch of indie movies we want to review today. I don't think we're going to get to them. So just, it's fine. I think it's going to be Thor discussion, for the next 90 minutes. But, we can talk about it next week because nothing comes out. Next week is dead. Thor again. Fletcher Williams, RRR mentioned. Drink. Yes, absolutely. No matter where you are, drink.
We already got there.
I'll drink to that. Hell was here. They are not making movies for kids and adults anymore. Just kids and low standard adults. Pilgrim Media for $2 says, watched Love and Thunder barely. Termination 2011's Thor 3 I liked, but it was the only Marvel movie that was too jokey. I'm not interested in Thor 4. If you thought Ragnarok was too jokey, you are not going to like Thor 4. Alan colon After Hours Live says Fletcher Williams. Alan is a legend, says Derek Douglas.
I really need to get that OnlyFans page going up.
And Pilgrim Media for $2 says Chris XLR Mike, just saying. Yes, we're actually have a discussion. I bought an app so that I'm not going in and out of focus. I way need a better setup. Yes, I actually have an XLR mic, but you have no idea like how, if I could take a picture of how crazy my setup is just to get to this, but I will improve. Pilgrim Media for $2. Thank you for that. And Derek Douglas says that t-shirt is awesome. And you know what? That's probably a good time to mention that you can go to shop.filmthreat.com and support Film Threat and get this shirt. We're Film Threat and everything. We do the same plugs every show. You guys hear it. We don't need to do it today. Let's jump right in. A couple final comments here. Infinite Main says movie drought incoming. Adam Iglesias says the Virgin Chris versus the Chad Allen. There you go. Fletcher Williams says Indie Summer, let's go.
Absolutely.
If you want an Indie Summer and you're in Southern California, in Santa Ana, California at the Frida Cinema, there is they're showing like great indie and classic stuff every day. Next week, they've got the original 1984 Dune, and they're playing RRR on July 13th and 14th at the Frida Cinema. So check that out. And then this is a good way to launch right into it. Solomon Thornton says it used to be fun watching MCU films. Now it feels like a chore and you have to watch them. It kind of is feeling like that. So let's launch right in. let's talk about Thor Love and Thunder. This will be a spoiler-filled review. For the beginning part, we're not going to get into spoilers too much. I've now seen the movie a second time, and I do think if you're going to take a deeper dive, you got to let the movie ruminate. That's why I really sort of cringe like doing the out of the theater reaction review, which is on our channel. It's a minute. And I just, cause I don't think it's a reaction that you got to temper it. You know, you haven't had time to process.
Yeah, but at the same time, you saw the movie. It gave you these feelings, these emotions.
Right.
I heard you laughing. You know, it was fun. It's kind of like, you know, there's got to be something to say about those initial reactions, and I'm curious as to see, you know, what happened over time. What began souring you over.
Well, look, I was mixed on it. I was like, I had a good time. I had a good time watching this movie. Does it work? Right. And okay, upon second viewing, so many things stood out to me, and things that you wouldn't even, things I know that you probably weren't looking at. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this isn't spoiler stuff. We're just going to talk about, this could be a new segment called Gore's Nitpicks. Add that to the IKEA chair video with Kenobi. There's a shot of, because then I started to like, okay, I saw it the first time, and yes, I probably had maybe more than a few Trulies. I should not have had them. Yard House has Truly on tap.
Yes, you were drinking beforehand.
Very dangerous for me during happy hour. They're $2 off. But in any case, so there's a shot where Jane Foster as Thor. It's still not explained to me why they call her Thor. It's not explained.
Technically, it's the mighty Thor.
It's not explained to me. This is a big thing, and no one, and even the movie has not offered a satisfying way of explaining this. Why is she called Thor? She has the hammer. Does the hammer just make you Thor? Is that it?
I mean, was Beta Ray Bill called Thor? Also, you know, we've seemed to completely erase the whole Donald Blake storyline. You know, the Donald Blake storyline that started the entire comic book.
Oh my God.
For decades.
Not just the comic book, the animated series from the 60s, which you can find on YouTube. They're these very limited animation series it's so good. I used to watch all of those: Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor. And what they did was they actually took panels from the comic and animated them, but in such a limited way. There'd be like an arm going like this, you know, or whatever. And that's it. Like almost sometimes only the lips would move. So it'd be like Thor in this pose and only his lips are talking. And the voice actors were incredible. It was basically like radio put to the comic books. But in any case, it's never explained in a satisfying way. And I think the problem is a lot of the important information in the movie isn't shown. It's just in dialogue. And then you're like, wait, what? So one thing that bothered me, and I would need to see it again, but for those of you who haven't seen it, or maybe when I point it out, hear me out. There's a shot where, you know, Chris Hemsworth Thor, actual Thor, and Jane Foster Thor are walking side by side, and they're just walking, right? And of course it's in front of a green screen or something, or the volume or whatever, because, you know, special effects. And she's got the Thor mask on, right? And I'm looking really closely at it, and the way it's lit, it looks like a bad Instagram or TikTok filter. I'm looking really closely at her helmet, and here's why, because I'm looking at her eyes, right? And if she actually was wearing I want to know, is she actually wearing a physical helmet, or is the helmet itself a digital effect? That's what I want to know. Mm-hmm. And it kind of feel like the helmet on Natalie Portman was a digital effect for most of the time because of the way her eyes are lit. If she was in fact physically wearing a mask, I don't know that you could light her eyes as well. So I think that's a concern. And it just looked kind of fake to me. I mean, a lot of the effects look cheap, you know, upon looking at them more carefully. A lot of the special effects to me look cheap. And in addition, the humor, before we get into spoilers, just want to say these are the things that really, really bug me. Okay. And the humor is too much. The humor is too much. And not only that, the humor breaks the reality. The only serious person in this movie is Gore. The best thing about this movie is Gore. And that's not just because, I'm not biased. I mean, I am a little biased. But the best thing in this movie is Gore because he's actually taking things seriously. And let me explain. Once I point this out, you're going to notice it. In the original 1966 Adam West Batman television series, the characters in world, like in their reality, took everything with the utmost seriousness. This is the Riddler. We have to stop the Riddler. It's the Joker. You know what I mean? So all of the characters, whether it's Commissioner Gordon, whether it's Robin, whether Dick Grayson, Bruce, whatever, all of the characters, Alfred, name them, within the 1966 television Adam West Batman series took everything with this solemn weight, but we knew being outside that it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous.
60s camp.
60s camp, and it worked, right? Because it took the events occurring in the world seriously, no matter how ridiculous. It's, Batman and Robin tied up to a very slow moving chainsaw, or grinder. They're going to be thrown into a giant vat of acid or whatever, right? Like they took it seriously. We knew it was ridiculous just because of we're in this reality one step removed. The problem is that the humor in Thor, it doesn't take the event seriously.
So let me ask you this. I mean, do we like the serious Thor of the first two movies, or do we think that the silliness of the second two movies was a way to kind of expand the audience and make Thor more accessible to the masses, so to speak?
You need a balance. The problem is there are so many jokes, many don't land. And I'll tell you this. So when I saw it last night, I saw it with a group of, it was almost 100% capacity full in an IMAX theater. I mean, people were, in the front rows, which you rarely see in an IMAX, right? People want a little bit more distance. I don't even know why they put seats there. It doesn't make sense to me. No one wants those seats. So it was packed, and the reaction was very tepid. It was sort of polite applause at the end, sort of light applause of, I would say, maybe 20% of the audience kind of clapped, but it was like most of the jokes didn't land. And it felt like, why is the audience so quiet? Why is the audience so quiet right now? It felt a little strange. And I think it's because the quantity of jokes, quantity doesn't equal quality. And I think when you look at, I think it comes down to balance, Alan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go back to Ragnarok. Ragnarok had a balance of, there were very serious events about to occur in Asgard. People dying, Asgard being Odin being, Odin's demise, him being, wiped away. Just like there were serious events and balanced by humor that made sense in the context. Maybe it was a little too much. I like the sort of Flash Gordon aspects of that film. And I think it's going to, in retrospect, end up being the best Thor film will be Ragnarok. But this movie is just over the top humor, events that don't make sense, stuff that's just cringe that we'll get into. And I'll talk about specific moments that are just unwatchable.
I have to call out though. I mean, The Dark World is still considered the worst of the Thor movies. And that was serious Thor. And I feel like the only direction the Thor franchise could go in was a much lighter, sillier tone than trying to continue to tell. I mean, this is the reason why I never really read Thor, the Thor comic books when I was a kid, because it wasn't accessible to me. I just didn't understand the Norse mythology. And I really actually hadn't read a full Thor storyline until Gore the God Butcher came out. And I feel like, if Thor has any legs, it has to go in this more comedic tone.
First of all, I disagree. I think that you can have look, the original Star Wars movies have humor. I mean, mostly it's from cute things and, companion robots, and that's fine. That's where the humor element is, or interacting with weird things in the universe. But the events that happened in Star Wars, talking about the original trilogy, had meaning. They had meaning. And my problem with the way that the humor is used here is nothing matters. Everything's a joke.
Yeah.
Everything's a joke, including the events.
Yeah.
It just,
but my point is Star Wars is a different, more accessible story than Thor. I don't know. This is my personal opinion, but I've never really been into Thor. And I didn't, I kind of liked the first Thor because it made it somewhat accessible to me. But in terms of reading comic books, I stayed away from Thor for a very long time. And I think maybe it's, you could compare it to Star Wars, but Star Wars is a much better story than Thor is in terms of its overall lore.
Right. Well, I just, and I hope my air conditioning isn't distracting right now. I don't know can you hear it? I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear it now. Yeah.
Chat. Let me know if you can hear it. Anyways, but look, my big problem is just nothing seemed to matter. It's just like, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. It's a joke. But I feel like to further this discussion, we need to get into spoiler territory. So this is your warning. We're going to talk about what happens at the end. We're going to talk about specific events that occur. I want to hear your reaction, Alan. And before we dive first into spoilers, you saw Thor for a second time last night.
Yes.
Did your opinion about it change?
It didn't change. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I'll admit, I like funny. I like light. Those are the, the thing about movies today and how I've been starving is there's just not a lot of comedies coming out. And so, that's where I'm coming from when I come to my movies. I like light. I like funny. I like somewhat clever. And so I don't think much has changed. I don't think I've changed it better or for worse on the second season.
It changed for worse for me just because I realized that most of the important events are just sort of, spoken in dialogue, which I feel like you just need to see those things more. They don't, like, for example, just Jane Foster becoming Thor. Okay, you see her looking over the pieces in this sort of museum thing. Okay, so we assume that she steals it and becomes Thor. Shouldn't there have been at least a flashback where she's like, I am using this as a therapy for my cancer, right? This is, I hope that, because she just, nothing about her character from the first two movies, she's not in the third film, thankfully, because they never had any chemistry. I feel like maybe this is the only thing in this that maybe is that there's kind of a little chemistry finally. It only took 3 movies for Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth to have some sort of level of chemistry.
Well, it calls out the fact that their relationship didn't work, and it goes into why. But at the same time, one of the praises you gave the movie was it was under 2 hours.
Yes, that's still a praise.
The stuff you want.
Get me out of there quick. Get me out of there quick. But there's nothing that shows like, well, how did she just, so she's suddenly just Thor because she puts on a costume? And the other thing is, you mentioned this before we started recording. Why is it that you can humiliate and have all this stuff happen to Thor, and that never happens to any female characters? It just, you're just not allowed to have female characters fail or suffer any true humiliation and see them grow and persevere. That is reserved only for the male characters. And I look, if you're a fan of this stuff, I think it does a disservice to it does a disservice to those characters by not showing their struggles.
But the humiliation of men have been a part of American storytelling for decades. I mean, The Honeymooners is probably the first real example of the oafish man and these smart women. And it just continues. The Flintstones, the Jetsons, all of our storytelling has always put men at the lower position, humiliatable, and women not.
Well, we're going to get into more, but I want to show this right here. This is courtesy of Culture Crave, which they don't need a shout out. They've got like 500,000 subs. They're huge channel, but they conveniently put this together. I'm going to take our banner off for just a second here. And look at this. Thor currently, I checked on Rotten Tomatoes currently, and it went down from yesterday. Yesterday it was at 69%. Right now it's currently at 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, which puts it at the at the lower end of the critics ratings. Okay, these are critics ratings. Now the Ms. Marvel at 98%, we know that's I would say that's I would
the television critics have no taste, basically.
I would say that I would just credit that to great inflation. Okay. Yeah. But this is what the critics have given these. And I disagree with a bunch of these now that I look. I would rate certain things higher and other things lower, but whatever. Let's use this as a guide. Thor Love and Thunder ranks, it was at 72%. Now it's almost tied with Hulk, right? Lower than Iron Man 2. This is the MCU films and shows, right? We got Ms. Marvel at 98%, Black Panther 96%, Avengers, is that Endgame or Infinity War? I can't tell. My eyes, my screen is, yeah, that's okay. 94% for that. Iron Man 94%. What If 94%. Thor Ragnarok 93%. That's the highest rated Thor film. Spider-Man No Way Home 93%. Anyways, I mean, this is, well, it's at least a way to judge where these things stand. But Thor Love and Thunder currently 68% and probably will not go higher. Looks like it may even end up going lower. I mean, Eternals at 47% totally makes sense to me. Yeah. That's one that the critics got right.
I mean, there's like 264 reviews for Thor Love and Thunder, so it's not moving up unless another 500 come in.
It's not moving up.
Yeah.
Not moving up at all. So that's where we're at. Like, I don't know. I just, so many things were cringe. An example, let me give you a big example. So Gore's big plan is to steal all the children of Asgard and hold them hostage so that he can get Thor to come see him so he can kill him, because he likes to kill gods, because a god allowed his people to die, including his lovely daughter. And then now he wants to kill all gods because he has the special magic sword that can kill gods. And this is his plan, right? And it just felt to me, you know what it felt like? Well, one, all the stuff with the kids feels like a Disney Plus show, because it's all like this very diverse group of kids, not just diverse, but there's like different races, which I actually like that. And so that's fine, And then they've got Heimdall's son, right? What's his name?
Astrid, but Axel.
But he says he wants to be called Axel, because that,
Yeah.
That might have been a comment about something. I don't know. It felt like it was. It felt like, no, I want to be called this name. Right. Okay. But all that stuff with the kids, it felt like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. How Road Warrior was a great movie. They did this follow-up, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and it involves all these children. And then it's like, why are we throwing children into this story? It doesn't make any sense. And it felt like they were shoehorned in. So, yeah. All right. I think I got to turn off my air conditioner. I'll be right back. But Alan, keep waxing here.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, first of all, I like the children only in the sense of, I like the idea of putting children in danger. This has been kind of a theme for me for a while, but I think films tend to coddle children. You can't do certain things with children. This one, we're putting them in danger. The whole scene where Gore is confronting them with, just trying to convince them that gods will not be there to save them, to me was really interesting and probably my favorite. But yeah, they're. I like the fact that they were there. I just felt like it could have been handled a whole lot better.
Well, look, the stuff with the kids is annoying. It's really annoying. There's a shot where he sort of imbues them with powers, and they use sort of handmade weapons. And one little girl is holding like a stuffed rabbit, and lasers are coming out of the eyes of the rabbit, which might be a funny moment, but it's just cringe. It's just like, wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been handled better. The whole point of the children, though, was Thor's. You look at Thor's interaction with them at the beginning, where he doesn't know what to say to them. He doesn't know how to comfort them in their situation, and then that evolves over time as Thor. There's definitely a story arc there that I'm pretty sure you didn't appreciate. Was kind of lost.
No, it was dumb.
Yeah.
It was dumb. I didn't appreciate it. I see what they were trying to say. He can't relate to kids. Now, not only does he is he able to deal with kids, now he can now he's basically a surrogate dad, right? Or he's the stepdad to Gore's daughter, who somehow rises. Did they ever? I'm sure they explained it in a line of dialogue, but a lot of the stuff that happened didn't make sense. It just sort of happened like magic, and then that happens. It was yeah. Like I say, compare the 66 Batman TV series and the tone, which has a very specific tone that works, right? And even the same writer, Lorenzo Semple Jr., who wrote the pilot of the Batman TV series in the 60s and many of the episodes, also wrote the Flash Gordon movie with Sam Jones. Same kind of tone. There are funny events and things that happen, but the people in world, it's serious. Right?
You bring up something interesting that I just thought of, but there's a constant in the Thor movies that's missing in this one. And do you know what that is?
What is it?
It's Loki. Loki's not in this movie. And Loki was the serious counterbalance to Thor's silliness. And I think there's something to be said about the importance that Loki played. And I think Loki, if anything, was the key to the successes of Thor coming up to this point, and he's missing.
I didn't really think about that, but you're right. I mean, there are like moments like, and like in any Star Wars movie, right? Okay, you got the robots are funny in this, but they'll be like, when the Force theme is playing, or there's like something dark, like something foreboding. This movie never stops to have a serious moment like that. When it tries to, it's embarrassing. For example, the way that Jane Foster's cancer is handled. It's handled like just like a regular hospital TV drama.
Yeah.
And it feels very false. Like he goes to Thor goes to this, snack machine and brings her the snacks. He basically breaks it and brings her all these snacks. And they have sort of an awkward exchange about the snacks. And it's like a terrible, it's just like a terrible hospital drama show.
Yeah.
And then, she dies at the end, by the way. Big spoiler. And this is in the comics too, right?
Yeah. It's in the comics.
She dies at the end, and it just doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't really mean anything. It just doesn't. Am I supposed to care? I don't know. It feels like the filmmakers don't care. It feels like they're just like, is there an opportunity for a joke? I'm going to make an opportunity. And it doesn't get out of the way to actually have some meaning, with the exception of Christian Bale's character, Gore. I feel like that is but it's not enough. It's not enough to save the movie for me. And then the way it ends with it ends with Thor being the stepfather to Gore's daughter, who now has powers and is wielding, it's just wielding is it's just oh
yeah. And that begs the question that I asked earlier is, I feel like they had to go in this direction to give the Thor franchise legs, because I'm not sure that, after Dark World, that tone was gonna, I think they lost faith in the serious tone with Dark World. And then going back to the whole cancer thing,
right.
Having lived with someone who went through the whole full stage 4 cancer treatment, there's something to be said of losing your hair. And I, for some reason, I feel like if they had allowed Jane to not have hair, that it would have brought a little more gravitas and a little more weight to that storyline.
Yeah, but Natalie Portman's not going to shave her head, and those things, all those bald caps, I don't think they really work.
They don't work. And then the kid who was doing chemo with her, had a full head of hair as well. And people have said that some people don't lose their hair. I'll tell you, most people going through chemotherapy lose their hair.
Right. That's well, I mean, you can get a wig. Let's look at the future slate for Marvel here. Okay, we've already gotten to there's there's the Marvels that's coming. I Am Groot, which is like a kids show. Marvel Zombies.
It's an animated shorts, basically.
Most of this. Wait a second. Looking at this, most of this is TV stuff, right?
Yeah.
She-Hulk, Secret Invasion is TV, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Loki Season 2, Blade is a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Spider-Man 4, Something Home, Daredevil will be a TV show.
Deadpool is a movie. Fantastic Four is a movie.
Fantastic Four, who knows when that's going to come? 2024 would make sense. Untitled Shang-Chi sequel.
Which is a television. Actually, the Shang-Chi sequel is something different than what's.
What is it?
I believe it's the creator, it's the director of Shang-Chi, and I think the rumor is he's doing Wonder Man. That's the rumor.
That's great.
The Shang-Chi sequel, maybe Wonder Man.
Well, shout out to Culture Crave for putting together this helpful graphic. But here's what I see. I don't know what's going on. The thing that made at least early Marvel stuff interesting was that I felt at least it was going somewhere, right? It's leading us somewhere. It's leading us to the introduction of legacy, other legacy characters, their first meetings, which is always interesting. When Iron Man, meets Thor for the first time, like all that stuff is cool, right? Yeah. And then it's leading to a major villain that they all have to take on together. There was division and conflict between heroes who had to set aside their differences to rally against, larger threats. That's recurring theme in the Marvel universe, not just the cinematic universe. That's a recurring theme in the comics and some of the greatest stories. I don't know where this is leading.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it, except for the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man, there are really no classic characters in this.
They're all being supplanted by newer characters or the characters maybe we care less about or don't have that kind of, that kind of larger fandom about them. So
I mean, the only classic characters left that Marvel has is Fantastic Four and the X-Men.
Right. And I would think at this point that Wakanda Forever, we would have seen something. I'm like, oh, okay, we're seeing Thor Love and Thunder. There should be a trailer for Wakanda Forever since it comes out in
November.
What, like
November.
4 months? 4 months.
Yeah.
We're four months away, have not seen anything.
Well, in defense of that, they are promoting a current movie right now. So they're not gonna muddy it with the movie following.
We're all done with the current thing, Alan. We're done with the current thing.
It's still a marketing timeline that they have to follow.
You're 4 months away from your Black Panther sequel, and you haven't said anything. And I think that movie without Chadwick Boseman, I don't know how much I care. Well, I don't know how much I care. I think it's stupid. I think it's stupid that they didn't think, you know what? We're all grieving right now. Like you can't fill his shoes, but a lot of people have played Batman, right? A lot of different actors have played Batman. You could get another actor to play Black Panther, and then you could focus the Black Panther movie on Black Panther. That would be nice. I mean, Black Panther was probably best portrayed in Civil War, and the Black Panther movie is kind of sidelined, by Killmonger. And I know a lot of people like Killmonger and whatnot. So, building the world building, I think that was done in Black Panther was, that's one of the best parts of that movie. And so maybe that, Untitled Wakanda series is coming, I guess. But if we're not leading somewhere, then what are we doing? And I felt like we knew with Thanos and the Infinity Stones, things were going to a place, building to something. and I feel like it's not really clear where phase 4 is building, with the exception of introducing a lot of new characters. But then are we supposed to be excited if are they all teaming up? Are they all, I remember when they were promoting Shang-Chi, and the best way they came up with to promote Shang-Chi was meet your new favorite Avenger, because they were just kind of,
They're
going
giving
on.
everyone the Avenger title.
Hey, remember the Avengers? This guy could be a new one. He's not an Avenger. He's Shang-Chi.
Yeah. The other thing about that slate is, I think with Moon Knight and with Ms. Marvel and with Kenobi, quite frankly, there's not a lot of faith in the Disney series, any Disney TV series coming out right now, because I think if anything, they've lost the handle on storytelling. They don't know how to tell stories anymore, and they're hiring people who have no experience telling good stories, and so I think that lends itself to just this depression that we're feeling over the future of Marvel over the years.
Well, my feeling is that there isn't a clear plan, and we all know what happens when there's not a clear plan. And I'm not going to bring up Star Wars because you just thought it. When you've got the sequel trilogy not, having a plan, and then they kind of admitted at the end that they didn't really have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have faith in the people behind it. And I feel like that's the case with this. I don't know. I just kind of feel like post Endgame, I don't know how, where are we leading? What are we doing? I mean, the rumor was back then that they were just going to reboot the legacy characters with younger actors. They were going to, this is true. One of the ideas discussed is that all of the legacy Avengers characters, Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Steve Rogers, they were all going to die basically and sacrifice themselves to defeat Thanos. And then this was an idea that was discussed. You can look this up. Captain Marvel was supposed to go back in time and pluck earlier versions of them and then bring them back to the present. And you would have basically rebooted all of the legacy characters with younger actors to continue the adventures of Captain America, Iron Man, all of that, right? I don't know how that would have played out or if it would have worked and what the fan uproar would have been, but that was an idea was discussed. And the more and more I think about it, initially, that's a stupid idea. You can't, Chris Hemsworth, you can't have someone else play. I mean, maybe you could. But I'm just like, when I'm focused on, Jane Foster Thor's mask going, is that just a computer digital add-on? Because I think that Marvel's gotten lazy where it's like you just touch your face and your helmet just goes away. Like that was a cool thing that was in Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie that Star-Lord used. Now everybody has that. Everybody just like you touch your face and your helmet just goes away as nanobots or whatever they explain it. Like it's lazy to me. And then Jane Foster has that like flourishing hair. Come on.
I mean, I will agree with you. I think one of the downfalls of Marvel Studios at the moment is its over-reliance on digital effects. And, and they're not even using it well, especially in the TV series. And there, again, there's still something about that practical feeling that you get with people just on wires and flying around and real costumes, so to speak, or for that matter.
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's not just the effects. The effects are sloppy and there's a lot of them and they vary in quality, right? So you're like, well, this special effect had to be done because we're all on a schedule. I have a friend in the industry who actually, a person whose whole job is just scheduling those effects and effects reviewed. You have no idea the process in order to just get the sheer volume of effects done by a certain time. And in that case, quality is sacrificed.
Yeah.
There's
that moment when the goats crash land on the planet and then they have to invert it and then bring it. I mean, that was purely for a gag. And it just, I mean, now I'm getting into your territory of
now that I'm pointing this stuff out, like look at Jane Foster's mask when it's just a shot and they're side by side and they're walking and the mask looks fake. And I understand, I'm thinking like, well, did he do that because you needed to light her eyes? Like just because if you've actually got a physical helmet on, it's going to be restraining to the actor. In addition, you're not going to be able to light eyes as well.
Yeah.
So
but it was all for the competition of costumes, basically, at that point.
Right. It's
Thor had to outdo Jane's costume.
These are the things that actually do matter, right? Like those little details. If you can't get those little details right, then a lot of other things are going to stand out. I could go on and on, but a lot of the stuff, like so much of the movie happens off screen or is like relayed in dialogue and but not in a way that is good, that kind of is world building and whatnot. It's more in the lines of like facts you need to know to follow along in the story, or conveniently just write a line that will explain something that might have been better told by showing it. Perhaps the running time, I think the running time is actually helps the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, if forced to rank it, a 5 out of 10 and lower tier Marvel, the thing that saves it for me, this is why I even got a 5. Chris Hemsworth. I love Chris Hemsworth. I think he's very good as that character. I think he's very good. And Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie is not as she's not as cringe. Yeah, she's not Loki, and she's not as cringe as she could have been. Like King Valkyrie. Like, why are they doing that? That's stupid. That's stupid. She could be a queen. So what? She could be a queen who's into other queens. There was no shortage of. This is the other thing that stood out to me. There's so much sexual innuendo in this movie. So much. A lot. And it's just not necessary. I mean, it'll probably go over the heads of kids seeing the film. There's a lot of sexual innuendo.
I like sexual innuendo.
We found out that Korg's race has 2 dads.
What's an all-male race? It's an all-male race. Maybe that's the
fine. It's just that like they showed the other Korg and it's like got like this very Freddie Mercury mustache. It's like it's a gay rock alien. It's so cliche. It was just I was just like, after a while, like there's sort of like you could do the check boxes of woke stuff, but I was like the check boxes of cringe just stood out. Whereas like, oh God, I don't know. All right. Let's go.
We got a lot of comments here.
We have more comments than normal. We're gonna get to them all, I promise. So let's begin. Let's begin and hear what you thought. And we're just spoilers. Jane Foster dies at the end, but she doesn't die because in the freaking post-credit scene, she goes to Valhalla. So is Thor going to go to Valhalla and get to see Jane? She's not. I don't know. I guess, and look, maybe to defend that for a second, let me defend that for a second. In the comic books, they hardly kill off characters. They hardly kill off characters for good in the comics. They just don't. They're dead for like a year and then they're back somehow. Yeah. But that's a way to get you to buy the comics.
Uncle Ben is the only person who died and never come back.
Yeah. Uncle Ben from Spider-Man, dead and dead. I am told that we need to smash that like button. We've got over 300 people watching. We appreciate you all. We appreciate your comments. You're a part of the show. And so smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. We want to get to 50,000 subs. Once we get to 50,000 subs, we have something very special for you all. Very special. It might be a new show, and many of you already know what it is. All right, so smash that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Oh, wow.
And let's get to your comments here. Starting with where I'm going to start from the bottom here. Dempsey, nobody ever dies in the MCU. Only a Mary freaking Poppins, y'all, has died for real. Yeah, that's true.
No.
And then Dempsey goes on to say, opinion, none of Thor's movies are towards the top end of MCU movies. Ragnarok was close to being top, but it is just a speed run of a decade worth of comics, decade of comics. I would agree. Want Biscuits, how possible is it to have a Hollywood on the Rocks or other show dedicated to James Caan, his movies, his career, etc.? We will do that next week for Hollywood on the Rocks. We had prepared some stuff for James Caan. I don't think we're going to get it today, but I want to specifically talk about not just Godfather, but one of the greatest performances of James Caan, one of the greatest. I've argued this. I've written articles about it in my top 10 list of sports movies ever made, and a great science fiction film that portrays a dystopian future we're currently living. And that movie is Rollerball, of course. Alan, give in to the dark side, says a maggot. CD Stein 69 for $4.99. I would rather have a build up to Midnight Suns than most of any of these projects. They already have some of the groundwork. Interesting. Turo says, thank you for the $4.99. CD Stein 69. Turo says, George Michael's Gotta Have Faith song playing in Alan's head.
You gotta have faith. You gotta have hope.
I like this. They finally. I'm turning, and this is why I like opinions that differ from my own. You know, you get, but like, I do think like if you really like, you need to see a movie twice to really be able to go deep. And on second viewing, the fact that Jane Foster's mask, and for those of you who haven't seen it or plan to see it again, look at her mask. It just, I'm looking at it going, it feels like an Instagram filter thing, you know, where people suddenly they have like mouse ears or a cat face. It just looked, some about it looked, and I was just staring at it. Those kind of details matter.
But how is her teeth? That's what I want to know. What did you think of her teeth?
Her teeth are fine. Her teeth are fine.
That's SAG health.
I love Natalie Portman's teeth. Okay. NCO Cham says, Chris just isn't having it today. Lol. Yeah, I'm a little cranky. But I did do, and some of you will be happy about this. I downloaded an app, so my camera isn't going in and out of focus. It's just sort of soft focus, and I still can't figure it out. I need a whole new setup. I need a new mic and I will get there. I will get there. Once we start this other show that we've been building up to, I'm going to have a much better setup because it's necessary. Amanda Nowicki, Star-Lord's mom dying of cancer was sadder than Jane Foster dying of cancer.
Yeah.
Yes, Amanda, absolutely. Like, and that's like freaking opening scene, like right in early in Guardians of the Galaxy, right? It
was the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's right. It's the beginning. It's like the opening scene, and it's tragic, and she gets the mixtape and it's motivation, and it's a shorter scene. And this thing with Jane Foster, it just shows me that, you know, and even like I know a lot of people love Jojo Rabbit. I thought it was good. But it lacked weight. I think this is something that, you know, like,
well, it's Taika Waititi's style. It's funny with a little bit of weight behind it, and
it's that sort of contrast of sad funny.
What We Do in the Shadows is an amazing movie, but there's not a lot of weight behind it.
Right. Well, and also Jojo Rabbit, I really felt like, knowing the subject matter, like, oh my God, there's all sorts of Hitler jokes. Like, this is going to be crazy. Hitler's the hero of the young boy who's the protagonist of Jojo Rabbit. And then all these horrifying things happen during the course of that movie. And it's just still going for comedy. I don't get it. Yeah, you're right, Amanda Nowicki. That is a very astute remark. NCO Cham is back. Wouldn't be the first time Natalie Portman shaved her head. I believe she did it in V for Vendetta. Absolutely, she did.
I think if she was bald, the cancer scenes would have added the weight that we wanted, at least in those scenes.
Part of it, I think, has to do with scheduling, you know, what movie she's doing next, or even her desire to do it. My feeling is she was just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I have a personal
I think this is a COVID film too. At the end.
Yeah. Great comment. Sahil says they should have just rebooted the MCU after Endgame with F4 and X-Men. Absolutely. That one gets a dance party. That comment. Wait, I got to turn my thing on.
30-second dance party.
All right, I can't stand that song.
Yeah, I mean the thing about Endgame is it was the shift away from the original classic characters
right.
to now the more diverse slate of characters that Marvel.
They could have even, here's something what they could have done is just put the present day Marvel universe on hold. They jumped 5 years in the future, right?
Yeah.
I think that 5 years gap, and I think the snap is still, I don't know how you recover from that. I feel like at some point they're going to undo the snap by going back in time, and the rift that created the multiverse or whatever is somehow due to the snap. It'll come back, and they got to go back and undo the snap, or they're going to reset the universe. They do this in the comics all the time too, where they do some cataclysmic thing that resets the timeline of all the comics because there's just too much canon piled on. You've got new writers coming in going, wait a sec, that happened 20 years ago to Wolverine in the comics. How old is Franklin? Richards was like 4 years old for 10 years. Same thing with like Peter Parker. People complain. Peter Parker,
he spent 20 years in high school.
Peter Parker was in college for 20 years. You know what I mean? It's like they don't age. That's fine, whatever. But like, you're right, actually, Sahil. This would have been great. Literally, what they could have done and just said, we're going back. And what they could have done, hear me out. What they could have done is just, that's the end of that story of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
That era of Marvel.
Ended it and put it on a shelf.
Put it on the shelf. That's the end of that era. Then what you do is you go back to the 60s and do a period Fantastic Four. You do a period X-Men, which I think that the idea is that the X-Men, because a lot of X-Men is about prejudice of all types, right? That's what X-Men, it's been there from the beginning. It's all about prejudice, right? That's just the recurring social theme in X-Men, and you could have dealt with that in the 60s, which I think would have been more interesting, right? I like when you social commentary when it's made in a way that's just sort of light, not hammering you on the head, so to speak. And I think that they could have just built a new Marvel universe back in the 60s, made them all period films, and somehow connected those universes. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. But Sahil, that's a great idea. Goober, the free wish was such a cop-out plot device, and they still didn't use it well. Yeah, it was. And I just think, yes. C-Stein69 for $4.99, and this list not having Winter Soldier not near the top makes this list a complete joke. Those are the Rotten Tomato scores. That's all I'm saying. Said no one ever. Italian Zeus was hilarious. Low. Why the Italian accent though? I didn't get it with Russell Crowe's idea behind it. Well, I mean, aren't the gods? Isn't Zeus
He's a Greek god.
He's a Greek god, so that probably wouldn't make sense.
No, I thought it was just a lame.
Jupiter is the Roman god equivalent, because they just stole their gods. I mean, that was his take. That was fine. I actually thought that, look, I'm not going to say that the movie's devoid of jokes that don't land. It's just that it's 20% of the jokes land, and the other 80% of the jokes get in the way of the movie. Here you go. Infinite Main. Always glad to have you. I didn't know Thor could give his powers to others. Might have been helpful against Thanos. Yeah, when they're introducing new ideas like that, and it's just sort of thrown in as like a MacGuffin or a Deus Ex Machina, it never works. It's just like, well, why didn't you back then? I love Thanos saying you should have gone for the head. Got him in the chest. Somehow didn't die. We know chest wounds don't matter anymore. If Kenobi taught us anything, they should just bring Kenobi into the MCU, because they should just say, who gives a fuck? Just combine the timelines and the universes. No one, John Richards. So Gore's plan, a less destructive version of Reva's? In a way, yeah, when you think about it, like, this is the thing, like it's important, I think, to understand the motivations of the characters, and most importantly, the villains, and it just didn't make sense. I mean, if anything, he had the attribute, the virtue that the god that he murdered didn't, which is, he cared for his daughter, he at least attempted to be selfless and save her and was unsuccessful. And so that virtue doesn't continue. I don't get it, John.
I will say one of the faults of the film that I found was just the fact that Gore could at the end wish away all the gods. I mean, that does feel very lazy to me.
There's so many things.
This is really convenient motivation for Gore, and we had seen that the Infinity Gauntlet was that basically, and so now we're rehashing that.
No, here's the thing: is to me, you can't add new rules because it's convenient for the plot. This is what the movie did that I think bothered me more than anything is it kept adding new rules. Like, well, we got to do this, we got to do that, we got to get we don't have the, we got to get, Zeus's lightning bolt, which he did that little like sort of Vegas show with, which was kind of got stupid. Mob 19001. So King Valkyrie actually failed in protecting Asgardians. Lol. True. 100% true.
You notice there was that scene where Valkyrie is trying to rally or to calm everybody down, but when Thor speaks, that's when everyone stops talking. Yeah.
No, I'm glad that they're listening to a man. I think that they need to listen. People are going to hate me for saying that. I am saying it to troll.
To me, it was more about Thor's true place as an Asgardian.
I just think that if Thor is 2,000 years old, he'd stop acting like he's an idiot in their 20s when it comes to like love or sacrifice. You'd think he would have learned something. I mean, that's the interesting thing about vampire stories, right? Vampires, because they're immortal and they've lived and seen people they love die, and they've lived hundreds of years. They've seen enough of life to have gained some wisdom. And Thor seems devoid of wisdom in these last couple of movies. And you're right, Loki, I didn't think about it until you said it earlier, Alan. Loki's absence in this movie is very, very present. It matters. CD Stein 69 for 1999. Have to disagree with Alan. Well, I already love this comment. Thor's story is very accessible. It's a true example of the hero's journey, not what we do in the shadows. I like a lot of Taika's work. How can we even trust with something like Star Wars like this? Yeah.
I believe he's out on Star Wars, by the way.
Oh, really? Because he did mention that, like, he asked Natalie Portman to be in his Star Wars movie, forgetting that she was already in Star Wars, which I think is really funny. Like, I almost like forgive him for that. When I think of Star Wars, I think of the original trilogy. Yeah. And then I'm like, well, the prequels have aged well, and they've gotten better. But yeah, that's so funny. So he's out of that, huh?
That's the rumor. I don't have anything confirmation on that.
Okay. Nerd immunity. Jane Foster was made to look silly by having a silly catchphrase. Yeah. What was her catchphrase? She whispers it to him at the end, and then we never hear what it is. Right?
Yeah, because that's classic storytelling right there.
As she whispers the catchphrase. But she did have a catchphrase when she went, what was it? It was stupid. Someone in the chat remind me what she said. Victor Fontaine, Alan is like RMB. That's Robert Meyer Burnett, for you that don't know. He is just wired to give Marvel products a pass.
I'm in good company then.
Alan!
We love Robert Meyer Burnett. Come on.
Sean Hugh for $5. Regardless of powers and appearance, Jane isn't Thor. The same way that the current U.S. president isn't George Washington. I completely agree. Like, explain it. She can have a different name. I'm actually even okay with her being called Lady Thor, whatever it is. But like, forcing this is just stupid. I almost feel like they're trolling members of the audience. It's like, so do you want people to hate it? Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Fat Elvis says, Alan likes everything. He's too nice. Well, I mean, I don't know if he likes everything, but you know what I know everyone likes? I know everyone likes that.
I will say I hated Kenobi from the very beginning.
All right, well, there you go. Kevin Apple says Thor in crafting Stormbreaker made the key to eternity. I can think of a time when that would have been useful. I agree. Like,
yeah, you could have wished. Okay,
I have no problem with, and this is actually important. It's important to have rules to anchor a story, right? There are rules about zombies. We know how zombies work.
Yeah.
There are rules about vampires. We know how vampires work. Now, you can sort of add nuance to those rules or change it up a little bit depending on, but I like rules being set, and we know how the Iron Man suit works. We know how Bruce Banner becomes the Hulk and how what at least some of the links of the Hulk's powers. But you're right. Made the Key to Eternity, you couldn't have used that at another time? Turo, when Chris reviews movies he likes, he describes moments in them with a passion. With this Thor, he's having trouble even trying to explain its existence. Very telling. No, it's true. It's because stuff just goes by and it doesn't matter. The thing is this, when it's so comedic, it just nothing matters, then it's not memorable, right? It's not memorable. When you create a moment in a movie that's memorable, it's because it hits you, and it's also something you see and not something spoken in a line of dialogue. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. If you see this movie a second time, if you see it another time, watch how much just sort of bizarre, perverse sexual innuendo is throughout the film. It really stood out this time. And knowing Taika Waititi is in a throuple relationship that includes Tessa Thompson is just sort of like, you're sort of weaving this in there in not so subtle ways that are like, wait, what was that line that just wait, what?
Yeah.
It was weird and not necessary and beneath the surface, and it stood out.
Yeah, this comment also applies to Ms. Marvel. There's such problems with Ms. Marvel, and there's just nothing behind it. No weight behind her story at all.
Well, obviously you didn't get a check from Ms. Marvel, but no, we were talking before we went live how much you despised the new Ms. Marvel. Her powers are stupid. It's convoluted. Yeah. This. I mean, at least that's not an exact quote, but
yeah, it's not exact quote. The problem with Ms. Marvel is they're telling two stories and they should be telling one story. It could be the story of a Muslim girl and her family, or it could be a superhero story, and they're muddling the two. And her powers suck. Her powers, they're cheap B-movie powers. And then lastly, she has no fatal flaw. She's just an angsty teenager going on this adventure. And that's the main problem with Ms. Marvel at the moment.
Yeah. Well, Turo, I will say this. That's absolutely right. When I see a movie that moves me, that leaves an impression on me, I remember key moments. And when I saw Thor, even the first time, so much of it was forgettable that because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And when I saw it this time, the second time, I felt the same way. Goober, love it how she casually goes from astrophysics to curing cancer. True. Buford T. Justice for $9.99. I'm shocked Alan likes a Disney / Marvel product. Love you, Alan, but come on, buddy. Moon Knight was a terrible show that only had 6 minutes of screen time for Moon Knight. Do better,
Look,
Alan.
Moon Knight ruined itself at the end. And again, same thing. It wanted to be a story about mental health, and it wanted to be a superhero story, and they couldn't bring the two together, and it's just it did not work.
CD for 10 says Taika Waititi does not know how to write Thor. He writes him like a parody. He literally made the deaths of his friends on Ragnarok a gag for the first 5 minutes. Yeah, it was weird, and it was weird. Who pointed this out? Was it Mueller or Drinker? Like on another thing, pointed out that it's a very quick shot. It's a very, very quick shot of Asgard. Okay, blink if you missed it. So there's a shot of where you're seeing modern day Asgard on Earth, and there's a ice cream shop called Infinity Cones. So literally they've taken the Infinity Stones and made an ice cream shop Infinity Cones. And if you think of it, there's two ways, I guess, to think about it. The Infinity Stones led to the blipping of half the population of, the universe. Mm-hmm. I don't know that you'd want to name an ice cream shop after that. Having said that, perhaps the awareness of people, it's more about they know that Tony Stark saved the universe with the Infinity Stones. So maybe that's why they called it Infinity Cone. So because Tony Stark actually saved the universe, that was, but it would be like making, an ice cream shop in Hiroshima, Japan called A-Bombs. Right?
Yeah.
That wouldn't make sense. So
No.
why would you call an ice cream shop in Asgard Infinity Cones? My feeling is it's because they're aware that Tony Stark saved the universe using the Infinity Stones. That's my explanation. It's funny I have to think that deeply about a shot that lasts literally 2 seconds. Blink if you missed it.
I will agree with this comment, though. It is
Yes.
parody. It is absolutely parody, and quite frankly, I'm a big fan of parody.
I don't mind humor balanced. 20% of the humor in Thor Love and Thunder worked. 20%. 80% did not. And it what it did is it reduced the weight of the events that were actually serious. Infinite Main for 5. Thank you for that. Spoiler alert, don't take young kids to see Thor unless you want to explain where rock babies come from.
What, two dudes holding hand over a pond? I mean, how much more romantic is that?
Whatever. It's not, I mean, look, they're aliens, so what? It's just annoying that it's like, okay, can get your agenda in. Can you check it off your list now? Great. Or just don't have it. Like it just doesn't, we don't need to know. We don't need
Valkyrie
to know.
and her sisters, there was another checkbox going off at that point.
Sure. It was weird how Valkyrie, like, you'd think she'd be wearing armor, but she's wearing like the kind of clothes you would wear if you were eating a full pint of ice cream home alone, along with red wine, saying rosé with a shirt that says rosé all day. Okay. Because she was wearing like a Phantom of the Opera Broadway shirt. And then she had, I don't know if you noticed this, in her boots, she had walkie-talkies or something. Like that's how she talked to people. Like she would communicate. I think they were walkie-talkies. There's 2 shots of her where you're looking at Valkyrie and she has these boots, and stuffed in the boots are walkie-talkies. That might have been a bigger thing. Like, that's how she communicates with everybody. She's on these walkies or phones or whatever. They're stuffed in her boot, but she's wearing sort of a lazy, staying at home, reading a book on a Saturday night shirt. No love for Lady Sif. Yeah.
Yeah.
Says Fat Elvis. Rust in peace. Why give a kid a mighty super weapon of mass destruction? Ferd Turgeson. Spoiler alert. It sucks. Sahil. Remember that scene when Jane emphasizes to Gore that her name isn't female Thor, but actually Mighty Thor? Face palmed at that. Yeah, that was cringe. It's part of the cringe. CD. They literally made the deaths of Warriors 3 a running gag. True. Nerd immunity.
They show Zach Levi's death. I remember in the Ragnarok, it was like less than a second.
Nerd immunity says, I disagree. Thor has a lot of heart and he is a flawed character, but he should not be a buffoon. True. Australian Aboriginal. I wish Thor was dark and Shakespearean. Bring Kenneth Branagh back, or at least they balance, right? Like have it be like this big story with weight, and then humor is part of it, but it's not so like overbearing. Derail Gaming. In most Marvel movies, the first time you see that new hero, people cheer and clap, but no one clapped for Mighty Thor. Yeah, it was weird.
Well, because we had seen it. We had seen it in the trailer, that moment.
CD says, Taika Waititi does not know how to write Thor. He writes him as parody. I think we had that one. Best comment I read said the film belonged in an episode of The Boys as a movie trailer. That's true. And I said this before we did our reaction to it. It feels like a TV show. It just feels like an episode of the Thor TV show. It just feels like an episode. It doesn't feel like a movie. It doesn't feel like a movie that moves the story forward, Here we go. Someday Da Vinci says you can't have comedy with such serious content like gore and cancer. I think you can, but not constant. The Luke Descartes says, if you rewatch Ragnarok, Odin's eye patch was digital, even the string. Of course, Jane's helmet is fake. Yes. So, okay, good. I'm not like crazy. I'm looking at her helmet and I'm going, it looks digital. So Rust in Peace, bet all the costumes are CGI, so they didn't have to commit to anything. They could just redesign it later. True. Nothing escapes Chris Gore, says King Roo.
Loki not being in the movie, but
the effects also look really bad with the backgrounds also looking fake. Yeah, calling it out. Victor Fontaine, don't call me Lady Thor, Jane Foster. Derek Douglas, Tim Allen as Beta Ray Bill would be amazing. Actually, that would be.
That would be cool.
Think about it. Fletcher Williams, all we want to know, Chris, were the chariot chairs wobbly? I didn't notice. I think they were all digital. Tony S., first time I considered leaving an MCU film early. Wow. Kevin Apple, using 1% of your brain would sour your opinion of this movie. Wow. Okay. We got some super chats here. Let's get to those. Tim C. /Thor stripped as a joke wouldn't fly if it'd been She-Thor. That's some misandry, I say. Good for all or none. Noodles expert. Tim Chismer, who's a filmmaker, whose movie, the name escapes me, Tim.
The Noodles of Nudeland.
Noodles of Nudeland, that's right. And who's also a nudist. Like, yeah, they'll humiliate the men up and down, never the women. Like, have it be even. Didn't Korg talk about his mother and stepdad and Ragnarok? Says Ben West for 5. I heard that they did, and now they've like they've reversed it.
He didn't check a box. That's why.
It was just a quick opportunity to check a box. Internet Rec Room fame has gotten to Taika's head. I think so. I think so. Jeremiah Bailey, we're talking. See, here we go. This is a great comment. Is this the Batman and Robin of Marvel? Why didn't Waititi make this more dramatic or just use a more comedic villain? Batman and Robin. Wow. First of all, good callback. Batman and Robin kind of broke Batman. I mean, after that, they just had to go full serious with they
had to reboot the entire thing.
Yeah, they had to reboot the whole thing with Christopher Nolan, which was great. It was great. But Jeremiah Bailey for 1999, thank you for that great comment. I think it is. I think that's a valid, because it's so over the top. One of the worst things in Batman and Robin is when George Clooney Batman pulls out the Batman credit card, which is so stupid. And I despise that. Yeah. Taika breaking his own lore, says Mob 19001. Korg got gay retconned, says Mazinger Z. Yeah. Solomon Thornton says the comic version, Gore enslaves as guardians, builds a god bomb, and wants to drop it in the multiple timelines and kill the gods. Would have been better. 3 different Thors versus Gore would have been badass, like a multiverse story. That sounds like a better story than what we got.
Yeah.
John Witchboy for 5 says, I saw you and Alan are doing an SDCC panel. Anything another day, says John Witchboy. Yes. On Thursday, July 21st at 11 a.m., we're doing a panel called Future Indies You Must See. Excuse me. It's basically just Alan and I and a bunch of people from Film Threat watching trailers. We're going to show you trailers and then talk about them. And they're all indie sci-fi horror films, genre movies. And they're fun. We basically just watch the trailers together just as a way to like kind of let you know, like these movies are coming out and, you know, have we reviewed any of them, when they're coming out and whatnot. So we're doing a panel that day. And then I'm screening a rough cut of Attack of the Doc Thursday, July 21st at 7 p.m. at the Landmark Theater in Hillcrest. It's the Hillcrest Landmark Theater, 7 p.m.
It's about 20 minutes away from the convention.
Yeah, about 20 minutes away from the convention center in Hillcrest. I'll be there. There's also like an after party. I think I retweeted the link with info about it. I know tickets are sold out, but the tickets are technically just so we can get a head count. If you show up and you're in line and you're there by 6:30 and we've got enough seats, you're in. So write that info down. We've got a special guest coming on in about 10 minutes, but stick with us here. Zayo Reimer, you have the book that does everything in Doctor Strange 2. Now you have Eternity that does everything. What's the next thing that does everything? Oh,
this is the problem. This is a big problem in Marvel stories right now. You know, you just can't have a fight between a hero and a villain. There has to be a cataclysmic thing that they're going for.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. More comments here. Dempsey, the fact that we are 4 Thor movies in, we're already on Jane Foster Thor is a bad speed run. The fact that we're 4 Thor movies in and we have yet to meet Beta Ray Bill is an absolute travesty. That would be. Wasn't there a rumor that everyone thought that when Christian Bale they were talking to him that he was going to play Beta Ray Bill? Because it just
I thought Beta Ray Bill was going to show up in Ragnarok.
Well, Ragnarok, their Beta Ray Bill is actually in the not in the movie. Beta Ray Bill is on a structure in Ragnarok, like on one of the sort of city spires, so to speak. It's right. It's right there. It's like right in front of your face. Blink if you missed it.
Yeah, but they've already told the storyline of someone who's more worthy of Mjolnir than Thor himself.
Right.
I don't know that you could bring him back. I don't know that you can bring Beta Ray Bill back at this moment.
Yeah. Here, another comment from Australian Aboriginal. Do people agree? Hope Taika doesn't direct Thor 5. Curious what everyone thinks. All right, let's talk about it. Yes, I hope he doesn't. I think that what I heard is that Chris Hemsworth did not want to make any more Thor movies after Dark World. He was just very dissatisfied with that movie. I think he has, if you look at other work that Chris Hemsworth has done, I think he likes doing comedy. I think he just personally likes it. He has fun doing comedies, and just sort of the weighty seriousness of the first Thor, then Thor the Dark World. It's so weird. If you watched all 4 Thor movies in a row, they would make no sense. They would really make no sense.
Yeah, because they're all in context with the other films too.
It's humor. It's important that humor is balanced. And I feel like we just didn't get that balance. You know?
Well, I mean, I will say the box office will answer that question.
The box office, here are the estimates. Let's talk about box office real quick. The estimates are between, and this is actually a revised estimate. The original estimate was 180 million for the weekend. That's now been revised to between 140 and 160. And by the way, where am I getting my information? I'm getting it from the Ankler. The Ankler is an email newsletter. Just look up theankler.com. It's you pay for it. You pay for their newsletter. You can there's a free version of their newsletter, which I recommend you subscribe to for a lot of insider stuff. And then you pay to get access to articles. But 140 to 160 is the current estimate. Could go lower. Teague for 5 says, what do you do to make animation good? Is it the art style, how things move, clear action, good keyframe, not asking to choose from a list, just asking? I think good animation sells the story and the emotion and the character. And there can be like the style, I feel like there's lots of varying styles. If you look at early Pixar work, they really evolved to later. I think a style is personal preference. It either works or it doesn't. And it could be a style that's sort of, like Waking Life is a movie that had a very different style. It's sort of rotoscope. But animation in terms of being used within something like a Marvel movie, I mean, those things are digitally animated, right? Characters are full digital animated. Creatures. I feel like you got to sell it. And I think part of that is not lingering on those shots that don't work. Part of it is sound helps sell it. I'll say this, bad special effects will be covered up by a really good story.
Yeah.
Like if you're like super engaged in the story and you're like so involved, you don't notice things. If I'm noticing that Jane Foster's helmet looks like it's a special effect that's just digitally added onto Natalie Portman, I think that's a problem. I think it's because if I'm noticing it, I'm not paying attention to the story. So there you go. Kevin Vassar says, I just don't understand, Alan. How can you see all the bad, agree it's bad, and then say you enjoyed it?
It still have fun. I mean, it's not perfect. I think that's the thing is, a good story to me has a way of overcoming some of its imperfections. It's not a perfect movie, but I still had fun. I still enjoyed myself. I like the parody aspect of it.
Well, and the leaf blowers just showed up on time, folks. Can you hear it? A little bit? Sounds like someone is like a lawnmower. just outside my window. Well, if you hear it, my apologies for that distraction, folks. But let me defend Alan for a little bit. Let me just defend him for a little bit. It's like you can see the bad, but you can have fun at the same time. I think trauma movies are like that. I don't know that there's ever been a good special effect in a trauma movie. Has there? And I love Uncle Lloyd. I love trauma movies, but that's a different beast. So, I think that it all is about a balance. And there is such a thing as a good bad movie. This is not a good bad movie. This is a movie where, for me, the bad things ruined the movie. And upon a second viewing, the things where it's like I had fun the first time, and I was like, oh wow, that's like a 6 or a 7. I had fun. So, and then upon like noticing stuff and then just like sort of rethinking, well, that didn't make sense. That didn't make sense. Then it's like, oh, all these flaws really stand out. And Kevin Vassar follows up with, just be clear, I don't hate Alan. And you know what? It's okay if you hate Alan.
It is not okay.
It's not okay.
I'm a very fragile person, and I cannot take a single negative comment.
Look, one thing we know we all love about Alan. Good question here.
My boobs are better in that video than the other one.
Termination 2011's Why Didn't Thanos Look for Eternity?
Yeah. Again. Convenience.
No, I mean, this is a problem. I actually think that, and first of all, Flaccid Phoenix pointing out, thank Odin for Alan's nipples. Let's get back to this. This is a problem when you have writer upon writer upon writer upon writer building onto canon, right? You've got all these different writers contributing to canon. You're expected to remember all this stuff. This is why I think they reboot comic book universes every decade or so. One, it helps boost comic book sales. The death of Superman, the death of the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Look, I have every issue of Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's probably the one time I feel like it was done really well, which Crisis on Infinite Earths, that was the 80s. It was in the early 80s. And I love that series because it was just like, it was buildup of decades of that. I don't know that anything had been done like that before.
Yeah.
I don't know that. And I think
Marvel did their reboot with the Incursion and the Secret Wars 2, and that's when I dropped out of Marvel and stopped reading Marvel altogether.
Right. Well, I do think that this happens in comic books when you go along a long enough timeline, things get convoluted.
Yeah.
They just get convoluted. It just gets convoluted. And so how do you fix it? How do you fix, things getting convoluted? You just reboot everything, then you rewrite, and then you're just introducing old elements with maybe a twist. That's what's actually very, interesting about the character of Batman that's been around 80 plus years, right? 80 plus years of Batman. Mm-hmm. And there have been things added to the lore of Batman as we've gone along, right? Like Commissioner Gordon wasn't even a character until the 66 Adam West television series because they needed a way to kind of basically someone to just tell you what the plot was this week for Batman. And so they just invented this character of Commissioner Gordon. And then Commissioner Gordon would come on and then, Commissioner Gordon would come on and tell you the Riddler did this. Okay, we're going to go fix it. Then eventually Commissioner Gordon worked his way into the comic books and became people think Commissioner Gordon was around at the beginning. No, he wasn't. So it's interesting how a character along a timeline, things will be added that add to, a character's lore. And I think that what might have been best, someone pointed it out before, if they had just said, every 10 years, we're going to tell the story of the Marvel Universe. It'll be slightly different. Maybe we'll focus on how many movies and characters can you make? And I think that after Endgame, maybe they could have had an epilogue movie and just that's the end of the universe. Mm-hmm. Then you begin another 10 years of Marvel where other characters are brought in, and it could be a period piece. Lots to do with that. Let's wrap up these super chats, these chat questions here. The not so smart Fox says, can't get mad with Alan nipples. And Dirty Onion for 10. Thank you for that. Chris, I thought you'd be interested in knowing I went to see a 40th anniversary theatrical showing of The Thing, 1982 per your recommendation. Wow. First of all, amazing. The Thing in the theater. John Carpenter's The Thing, by the way. That's the full title. Seeing that in the theater scared the shit out of me as a kid. It was the last time as a kid I saw that movie, and I slept with the light on. I was so scared. No, I'm serious. Like, that was the thing. If I saw something really scary as a kid going to bed, I had like this bedroom that was like on the top floor of our house. It was sort of like an attic-y thing. And like, but I had the whole thing to myself. It was great. And like, it was scary at times, and I slept with the light on. Enjoying the streams. Thanks for everything. So there you go. We're going to switch gears here for a moment. We're going to get back to chat about Thor Love and Thunder. I promise we're going to get back to that. But I want to switch gears just for a minute to give you some hope. I think it's important. I really, really believe it's important that we, you know, like, let you know that there are other movies out there, right? There are other films. So we're going to talk to one of the co-directors of The Prey Legend of Karnoctus, starring Danny Trejo, is joining us on the Film Threat Livecast for an interview here. Eric, how's it going?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Good, good.
You're welcome.
We have a young friend who's joined us.
This is my son, Cassius.
Hi.
Hey, Cassius, how's it going?
Good.
I hope your son is ready for a PG-13, if not R-rated conversation. It can get a little blue like that. Tell us about The Prey. Just to let the chat know, we're going to get back to Thor talk in a minute, but I wanted to let you know about this movie, The Prey Legend of Karnoctus. It's available on video on demand. Is that correct?
Yes. Yesterday was the release party for Xbox. So it's going to slowly release this month on different platforms. Amazon, Apple, Google, Vudu, Fandango, you name it. It's going to be available to download this month. And we're slowly getting release dates from all the platforms. Every day we get a new email saying it's available on this channel and that channel now. So it's pretty exciting.
Cool. So the movie is out and available. It's another choice. Look, if you're going to theaters, you're seeing stuff, maybe you're a little disappointed. Hey, take a chance on a video on demand independent film. Tell us the story, the sort of basics of the story of The Prey Legend of Karnoctus.
First of all, I got to say I'm a huge fan of yours.
Thank you.
I've seen your content, numerous times on YouTube, and I've shared it with my friends, and I'm like, listen to this guy. He's saying what I've been telling you guys for the last 20 years. And it's pretty funny that we get to talk now.
Cool.
So the genesis was, I wanted to make monster movies with my brother. He's not here right now. He couldn't make it. But and the whole idea was, how can we get any money to make a movie? What percentage of people that go to film school actually get to make a feature film? That was my biggest thing, like trying to figure out that hurdle. And for years and years and years, we were just trying to figure out, what do we do to get some money? And finally, I joined the OC Screenwriters, which is a local group in Orange County. And one of the guys said, hey, I want to join forces with you, and I want to raise money with you. And we got together. We hustled super hard for a long time. And I did a pitch to somebody named Juan Feldman in Venice Beach, who was making a movie of his own for $2 million. And I said, if you just give us $50,000, we can make you a movie. And he was like, how the hell are you going to do that? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, you're muted, Chris.
First, my question is, how do you make this movie for $50,000? Okay. I mean, the production value is all there. You've got like tanks, you've got weapons, you've got Danny Trejo, you've got big sets. It's
You've got a
obviously-
costume monster too.
You got like a costume monster, like, and you know, I'm sure there's digital. I mean, it looks like there's some digital effects in there as well, enhancement. But
Yeah,
like for
just
50 grand, kind of shocked for 50 grand.
Well, that wasn't the total budget. That was the seed funding to get the ball rolling.
Gotcha.
So that
okay.
was like, if you give me some money, I can make something like legit, like a real movie kind of thing. And then his whole thing was, okay, break it down, explain to me how you're going to do this. And at that time, I was already, you know, out of film school for, I think, 13 years. And I was hustling so hard that I had the answers. I was able to explain in detail how I would do everything. You know, I had friends that did special effects. I had friends that did makeup. I had friends that did, you know, camera, cinematography, everything. Every step of the way, I had friends in the business, you know. And I'm in Orange County, so I'm kind of outside of Hollywood, but I was going to LA, you know, every other day shooting stuff for other people and just building up a resume of friends that if I said, hey, we got a budget to make a feature film, it's a monster movie, it's the kind of movie that I would want to see. They were like, okay, let me, if I'm not busy working on some big budget thing, like I'll help you out. So really it was a collaboration of friends getting together, making something that we wanted to see.
Did you film it in Orange County?
Some of the scenes we did, yeah, in Laguna Beach. There's a cave actually in Laguna Beach that people don't know about, right on the water. And if you go at the right time and their low tide is there, you'll actually be able to have like a cool cave, and it's right there in Laguna Beach. So it's really cool. But mostly it was shot in Santa Clarita at Blue Cloud Movie Ranch. We made friends with Rene Valuze, and Rene is luckily he's a huge monster fan and, you know, sci-fi fan. And he just kind of gravitated to us. He liked us. He saw that we were genuinely just, you know, trying to make a movie. And he's like, you know what? Can I join forces with you? Let's make something. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Because, you know, he had the Iron Man was shot there, American Sniper. There's so many movies shot there that they had all these great sets. So he's like, I got whatever you guys need. You guys can do it. So he came on board as executive producer. And, you know, I pitched it to Juan saying it's a monster movie set in Afghanistan. My friend Gus, he's the producer and writer too. And he's the one that introduced me to Juan. And Juan was kind of like, I don't understand genre. I don't really get this kind of stuff. But the fact that it sounds like you could really pull this off, I'm intrigued. And I said, okay, give me $200 and I'll get you a contract tomorrow. And we did it. And he wrote me a check for $8,000. I called up all my friends. I said, let's have a meeting. We finally got a budget to make a movie.
We've got questions in the chat. We've got 300 people watching us right now. So let's get some questions here from the people in the chat. Dempsey says, Danny Trejo is an absolute icon. Having him in a movie like this is a dream come true. The trailer reminds me of Commando meets Predator. I will definitely be watching this one. That's great to hear. Nice. And then Internet Rec Room says Matthew's background, I think he means Eric's background, is greater than Alan's background. Yeah. And then Internet Rec Room goes on to ask, so what was the inspiration for the monster? Any urban legends or ancient lore referenced?
Even though we did read about stuff like that and hear about stuff like that, to be honest with you guys, it's closer to, for us, it was like, you know, going to Disneyland as young kids and going on the Matterhorn, and you see like, you know, the monster that's in the Yeti that's in the Matterhorn, or just, you know, Bigfoot movies that when we were younger, who we were into, like, you know, Bigfoot and Sasquatch and all that stuff. So we didn't really go connected too hard to anything that was like actually like connected to that area. It was more like, it's a monster. We can do anything we want. We can make them look any way we want. We can get as weird as we want, and we would rather do that than just make it look like the normal Bigfoot, you know? So we got together with Al Medina, Calvin, and Richard Carter, our concept artist, and we just had pencil and paper, and everybody just started drawing, and it just started forming into something that, well, what if it had this, or what if it had that? I suggested 4 eyes because I wanted to do something, make them look a little different. And then my brother started adding feathers in the mane so that it didn't look like too much like a lion. And then, you know, it just started evolving. And this was something that we knew we had to make ourselves. This wasn't something that we were going to go, you know, just raise money and go hire a company to make. So, people don't understand. It took us almost 6 months just to make the monster because we were doing it ourselves. And when you do it yourself, you mess up, you try things, it doesn't work, you have to sculpt something again. And then one time my brother who's sculpting it, he made it and it was looking really cool on the bus. But then when you put it on a person, it was too big. The mouth would go like down to here. So then I was like, oh, this isn't going to work. You have to start over. And it was just a bunch of trial and error like that. So I remember when he started over and he did it, it was a lot tighter. But then he took that face and he glued it onto the old face and it made the face stick out more like a werewolf kind of a feeling. And when you saw it on the profile, it didn't look it looked less human, which was good. So even when we messed up, it felt like we figured out how to keep moving forward in a good way.
Here's some more questions. The fact that you have Danny Trejo in this film blows me away. Any advice for filmmakers?
Yeah, make lots of friends. Do lots of favors for other people. You're going to not have enough money to pull off your vision. So if you have a lot of friends that are down for the team and they got your back, I mean, I had people that work for me that I would give them commercial work for such a long time that if I said, hey, tonight at midnight, we need to go shoot this thing because we have this amazing opportunity, I would have like 5-6 people ready to go that night with like a 3-minute, warning kind of thing. So that was the main thing, is have lots of friends because you're going to get knocked down. You're going to mess up. You're going to do a shoot day in Palm Springs and it's going to be grueling. It's going to be hard. People are going to be passing out in the monster suit and you're going to be looking around on set saying, who else can play the monster? And if you run out of people, your shoot stops. I mean, one time we went to Palm Springs to do a shoot in this crazy place called Painted Canyon and it started raining on us. And we're like, when does it rain in Palm Springs? Like, this is crazy. Like, you're ruining. We have like 5-10 people here to just pick up one shot and we couldn't even do that. So you have to get so many friends that after they did all that work, you say, okay, I know that was a little demoralizing, but are you guys available next weekend? And and they're going to be like, you know what, this is a little crazy what you're trying to do. And you have to kind of be a little bit crazy to pull stuff off that you're not going to, I mean, no one's going to just magically give you a check and say, hey, I've never seen you paint before. Here's $1 million. Could I see what your paintings look like? That's not going to happen, right? So with filmmakers, you got to prove it. You got to make something good enough where somebody wants to be attached to what you're making.
Another question here, really good question. Slick Soul asks, if you could name just a website or a group or message board where people can get together and make a movie to find the talent they need, which would it be? So how do you basically find, you're an aspiring filmmaker, you don't know people who do sound or makeup effects or digital effects. Like, is there a message board that you would recommend or a website to find people?
What I did was I found groups that I could actually go to live meetings, because I noticed that even the chat rooms and the message boards, I mean, there's Reddit, there's stuff like that. There's YouTube content that you can be in the chat rooms. There's Facebook groups. Some of them are great. And you communicate on a level that you guys are into the same stuff. But if you're not meeting with people and going to events, and I remember going to OC screenwriters events or other filmmaking. I went to UCLA for a screenwriting class, even though I already graduated film school, because I was just trying to be around filmmakers. And I was like, okay, what if I dedicate my day to filmmaking? And the rest of the time I could go make money. And then I was figuring out, well, what else can I do? And most of the time it's like, you have to just find a core group of people. It's not a lot. You need to find like 5 to 10 people that are also passionate about making something like you want to make. And it has to be very specific. You can't just say, I want to make movies in general. That doesn't work. You got to be like, I want to make movies like, Big Trouble in Little China meets Goonies meets Predator. And they have to go, oh yeah, I love that stuff too. I would dedicate, 100 days to you for that. And it's like, okay, cool. What do you want to shoot? You want to shoot a comedy about, people that live in Virginia? All right, sounds a little weird to me, but let's do it, So it's really about meeting people that have the same goal. And I don't know if that will work with just the chat rooms and stuff like that. I think you actually have to get out of the house and meet with people and kind of like start shooting stuff together.
And a final question here. Flaccid Phoenix asks, what is your dream future project?
to make a Western monster movie. Very similar to Big Trouble in Little China, but also nothing similar to that movie, but kind of make you feel like it's connected to that movie without copying anything.
Gotcha. First of all, Eric, it's been a pleasure to have you and your young son on today to talk about the Prey Legend of Karnoctus. It's out now. Karnoctus. What am I saying?
Karnoctus. Yeah, Karnoctus. We thought my brother said the monster's a carnivore and he's nocturnal, and we needed to make up a name. So Karnoctus.
It works for me. I think it's always good to like make up a name because then you can own it. I mean, if it's you know what I mean? It's like, well, you own that name. You made the movie with the name and the title. It is out and available on video on demand, rolling out on other platforms. It's on Xbox today. So if you have an Xbox, you can see the film. Eric, thank you so much for joining us on the Film Threat Livecast on a Friday, telling us about your movie. Check it out. Again, look, if you're not loving what's in theaters coming from Hollywood, there's always great indie movies worth seeing that are out there. Eric, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Take care. Later. That was awesome, man. I love always having like filmmakers on that, like, you know, can just like tell us about, you know, their work and kind of just give you hope that it's like, it's also, I think it's important to know that like this stuff is actually within your reach. Like, you know, the making of a film is within your reach, and the resources, there are a lot of there are more resources online. I would say if you're an aspiring screenwriter, there's a website called Inktip. Just look up inktip.com or just look up Inktip. It's for screenwriters and it connects screenwriters with producers who have budgets.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, yeah, and I think the Orange County Screenwriters, I mean, that feels like a meetup group and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you can certainly find, especially for low budget indie filmmakers, you know, you're going to find people who just have as much passion to make movies as you. And joining one of these groups is a great way to work on projects and have people help work on your project as well.
And I will say, we're gonna talk for the next, you know, we're gonna talk for a little bit longer, but I may have to end the stream earlier than I would have liked on a Friday, only because not only is there like there's some weird yard work happening right outside my window here, directly upstairs, which is an empty place. They are redoing the floors, and I don't know if you can hear any of it, but it's
I don't hear a thing.
You don't? Okay, that's great. Let's get to the comments and questions here. Retro Nerd Girl says that interview is so inspirational. Well, this is why we do these interviews and kind of weave them into, we're talking about Thor. Let's talk to an indie filmmaker who made a movie with Danny Trejo, he's in Orange County, you know, a dad who just wants to make something fun. And he decided to make the movie and freaking made it and directed it with his brother. I mean, how cool is that? And you can see it right now and it's out and available. Yeah. Like part of our role with Film Thread is to say, we know most Hollywood movies suck. Why don't you check out some other stuff? Mm-hmm. It's just to offer a solution. So Retro Nerd Girl, always happy to see you here. Thank you for that. Todd Packer says, Chris, how do you fix plot holes? That's a good question.
That's a big question.
Plot holes are just, to me, just show that your story is flawed. So I think you kind of go back to like the spine of like, what's the story? And story is revealed by characters. So if your character is not driving the story, it's just the story is driving the character, then it's just sort of, to me, that's lazy. There are, you know, I just think the plot hole. Oh, okay, this is good to hear. Want Biscuit says, I don't hear anything, Chris. So that's good to hear. I hear it's incredibly loud and distracting to me right now, but maybe I've got a decent microphone, but I do need an XLR, I'm told. But I don't know. that is such a specific question. It's sort of like,
do you think a story's too complicated? Maybe
when a story is too complicated and you're having to add things just to fix it that don't drive the story. I'll tell you stuff that when you know it's good. Compare Kenobi with Stranger Things season 4. Stranger Things season 4. What I've seen of it, and I haven't seen the whole thing. Every scene matters. Every character interaction.
Every line.
Every line is important. And when it isn't, or you're like going off on side, or when I'm questioning, like, wait, so Reva's going to kill Luke because she's mad because Darth Vader killed her friends when she was young, but spared her, and she became involved. Like,
no. Here's the worst part: she's gonna kill the son that Vader doesn't know he has.
Right, exactly. Like, wait, why? I feel like plot holes. Here's how you know you have plot holes: when you're writing lines to cover up holes in the plot.
Yeah.
When you are writing lines or creating scenes to fix a plot hole, that's when you know you've gone off.
Maybe you got to pull back and simplify the story.
Right. Let's go to some super chats here. Solius Vecteris for €5. Found you, Chris, from Film Courage videos. Been loving your content. Thank you, Chris and Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, Chris and Alan, for amazing content. Love you guys. Well, thank you, Solius Vectoris, for the 5. We appreciate it quite a bit. Slick Soul for $4.99. It's not perfect, is what we expect to hear from Chris on an indie. Alan, Disney Marvel has the resources to be and should be better. Okay,
yeah, absolutely.
Look, okay,
I don't
so
disagree with that.
Let me go back to that. Slick Soul is on point with the comments today. Yeah, like, look, indie movies to me are like a bird with a broken wing. They are flawed by the very thing that they're indie, right? The reason they're indie is like, well, they didn't have the money to do this, so it's not perfect, or they didn't have the budget for this, so it's not perfect. Like, and so I don't mind it. You can overlook flaws in indie films to see what's really there. Go watch James Gunn's early work. Watch Super with Rainn Wilson. I mean, it's not a perfect movie. It's not a perfect movie, but that story is so strong. And so the soul of that movie kind of emerges, through the flaws. Whereas, like, when you see flaws in a movie like Thor Love and Thunder, a $100 million plus budget movie, they shouldn't be there. Like you've got everyone at the top of their game making something, getting paid decent at least, or at least getting paid. With indie movies, you never know if you're going to get paid. So yeah, but Alan, you need to be a little tougher on these movies, I think. Look, I respect your opinion. I respect, that you and I can have these discussions. And I also love that I think I've turned you around on this film.
No, I still liked it.
Okay.
Yeah, again, okay. Well, I'm not gonna rehash it, but you bring up a point with the money Disney has. It should be a perfect movie.
Yeah. Turo says, Chris, have you ever been watching a movie that you thought had plot holes, but by the end the story twist fixed everything and your mind was blown? Yeah. You don't really know until the end if it's a plot hole. It's a plot hole if you go back and say, wait a minute. But yeah, you do have to give at least some credit to the movie, get to the end and go, oh, okay, they wrapped up everything really well.
So the Sixth Sense fall in that category?
What's that?
The Sixth Sense fall in that category?
Yeah. Like it would. Like, that's like, wait, things don't make sense. Oh, they make sense at the end. And that's probably M. Night Shyamalan's best work is
his first and his best.
Look, enough of this film crap. Give us the nipples that we're here for. You ask and you shall receive. Okay, that's not it.
Chris is available for birthday parties.
Rhea Lavi, films that cost north of $200 million for production and marketing can't get away with being okay.
Yep.
True.
Yep.
Ricky says, hey, Chris, did you ever end up going on the John Campea show? I did last Thursday. So it was a week ago yesterday. I was on Campea's show. I did my reaction to Thor, and I basically just said it felt like a TV show. It felt like a TV episode, not a movie. Starlaw says it is good cop, bad cop with you too. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Womp Biscuit says, I need therapy now. Thanks. And Womp Biscuits goes on to say, thank you for this. Your mic's range may not be wide enough to pick up ambient sound, which is a good thing. That's why, yes.
Which might be a problem with an XLR. XLR might pick up too much.
Womp Biscuits also says, do you think that for all movies over, say, 2 hours and 15 minutes long, should they be required to have a 10-minute intermission? No. I think that over 3 hours, if you're a movie that's over 3 hours, you need an intermission.
Yeah, Gone with the Wind had an intermission.
And Gone with the Wind had an intermission. RRR in its release had an intermission. So there you go. Andre via Franca says, I'd like to hear thoughts on some TV series. Can we expect some TV series reviews? Yes, I've been watching Stranger Things season 4, so we'll get to that. The Boys season 3. We should have we did a review of the first 3 episodes. This was a couple weeks. This is weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And I believe it's wrapped up just recently. So we should do that next Wednesday. Okay. Let's do that next Wednesday for Hollywood on the Rocks. We'll talk Stranger Things season 4. We'll talk The Boys season 3, and then what else we're going to, with the next TV series that we're going to discover. Okay. That's what we're doing next week. And then also next week, we're going to continue Marvel discussion a week from today. And then we're going to talk about all the indie movies we didn't get to. We have like this whole list of indie movies we didn't get to review today that are like, we had like prepared to review.
Yes.
And we're running out of time. But thank you, Andre, for bringing that up. I think that's gonna wrap it up for us today. I've been going 2 hours. Obviously they're redoing the floors or something upstairs. It's a little hard for me to focus with that.
Actually, I think I hear it now.
Oh, you do? Yeah, like they're like ripping up the floor.
Yeah, I hear some thumping.
It's there you go. But hey, I want to say thank you to everyone in the chat here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your comments. You are a part of this show and we appreciate it. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming up. I think some of you know what we've been planning and we really want to do it right. So after Comic-Con, we're going to be launching a new show and you are going to be a part of it. And I can't wait for that. Super chats coming in, last minute super chats coming in. We'll get to those. CD Stein 69 for $4.99 says, I'd be down for a Big Trouble in Little China meets Bone Tomahawk. Great idea from an indie director. Too bad mainstream doesn't have those ideas. I just like to see more original ideas. Yeah. I think that's where indie films excel. Movies like, say, for example, Brian and Charles is an indie movie that I would recommend that I think is very good ideas and is funny, a British comedy. Something like Marcel the Shell, which I'm seeing for a second time today. I'm going to go see Marcel the Shell. That should be a lot of fun. And, it's hard for an indie movie to kind of break out. Mm-hmm. So,
but at the same time, the big studios, 90% of their stuff is adapted works.
Yeah. Yeah. And CD Stein 69 for $9.99 says, the biggest problem I've had is the joke Thor has become. He was never a buffoon. He was just a fish out of water that had situational comedic elements. Not a huge fan of most of the last few films. Well, if you didn't like Ragnarok, you're going to really not like this. But if you keep sending super chats, they can't leave. Well, that's actually true. That's actually true. We're not gonna never leave a super chat behind, is what I like to say. But if we're not getting super chats in, I think we've discussed it. And this is what's weird is like how like after leaving the theater, movie just sort of flew from my brain. Like I had fun while I was watching it. And then like all these things didn't make sense. And a lot of them now cringy and stand out as just being bad.
Yeah. I mean, that says something about storytelling in movie and Hollywood today. They're not telling compelling stories that make you want to remember it. Like for me, it's they're giving me a good ride, but what does that mean at the end? When was the last time a movie really spoke to you?
Well, here's your future Marvel slate.
Yay.
And that's a lot. And I kind of feel like, to me, it just looks like a lot of content. A lot of content. And I don't know I feel like they're just like, we need it. We need more. They're doing an Agatha show.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I heard that, but now I'm reminded of it.
You know, if you look at it, the Fantastic Four is the only one that people are asking for. Maybe Blade.
Well, because we've never seen a good Fantastic Four movie.
Mm-hmm.
But
everything else is being foisted upon us, basically.
Yeah, I wonder, do I have that Fantastic Four DVD? Right. Yeah. Here. This is the best Fantastic Four movie is right here. There it is. There's the best Fantastic Four movie. It is the one that was made by Roger Corman. You can get this for $10. It's a director commentary from Oli Sasson, who's the director of this from 1994. Special features on the disc. It's $10 for this Blu-ray. And it's the best version looking, because I've had a VHS of this for years. You can get the Fantastic Four. Look it up. You can find it. Let's see, where's the website on this? It's actually
not on Amazon.
It's not on the box.
Although your documentary is on.
You can find it. There's Doomed. This is the movie that's in Doomed, right? So there you go. All right. Unless we have some more super chats or comments here, we're gonna wrap it up. I don't have the link where you can buy the DVD, Ladies Man 727. I don't. You're gonna have to Google it. Look up Fantastic Four 1994 Blu-ray. Alan.
Yeah, looking up. No, Doomed is on. It's on Amazon, but
the director of Doomed put this out because so many people asked for it. Anyone? Flaccid Phoenix, have you found it? No? Okay. Folks, we're gonna wrap it up. It sounds like I'm under attack. By that I mean
yeah, now I really hear it.
You really hear it? Like they're literally above me hammering. So I want to thank you all for just sticking with us on a Friday and hanging out. We had like 300 people plus. I think we're growing every week, and I'm excited to have you with us. Next Wednesday, we're going to talk TV. We're going to talk seasons of TV, which is going to be a lot of fun. And we're also next week going to be talking lots of indies, probably continuing our Marvel discussion. And I want to thank you. Thank Flaccid Phoenix, our producer, moderator. Go subscribe to his channel, Flaccid Phoenix. He's got some great reviews up there, including one for RRR. If you can't get enough RRR, I know I can't. It's playing at the Frida Cinema next week, July 13th and 14th. 7 p.m. show. I might go down and check it out. Actually, on Wednesday, I'm thinking of actually going. Just driving down to the Frida. There's a good happy hour at a bar called Native Sun.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the Native Sun bar, which is actually directly next to the Frida, it's a rooftop bar. They've got an amazing happy hour there. Could be a lot of fun. And CD Stein 69 for $1.99 says, weren't you going to talk about memberships today? Absolutely. CD Stein 69. Memberships will be available. I'm going to post something in the community tab right after the stream, and you can join. We're going to be doing special content just for members. So thank you for the reminder. CD Stein 69 for $1.99. We appreciate it. We're Film Thread and everything. We appreciate you spending time with us. That we have a lot more coming, and we thank you in our channel growing. We grew by almost 4,000 subs last month, and we want to keep on that fast track. We want to get past 50,000 to finally get to 100,000 one day to get that plaque that Alan so desperately wants on his wall. Alan wants to get one of those plaques.
It's going somewhere over here.
It'll go right there. Alan, take us out.
Let's get out of here.
Thanks again, folks.